I mean, you had your chance and then you blew it.
That is the most absurd statement of the year.
Nice. Nice.
Oh, baby.
I'm in my zone, I'm feeling it.
Live from West St. Paul Studios, it's time for MinneZona Sports Live with DJ Matty C and Paul the Shield Vold.
And this is MinneZona Sports Live. We are back, yes, episode 221, ladies and gentlemen, 221. And Happy New Year. It is 2025 as well. Hopefully you had a fun and safe Happy New Year and Merry Christmas to all of you who had a great Christmas and whatnot and are all good to go. So with that being said, I am your host, DJ Matty C, a.k.a. Matt Callahan, a.k.a. Callie, a.k.a. Matty C, etc., 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 and all the way in St. Cloud, Minnesota, in Granite City Studios, Paul Vold, the Shield. What's going on there, Shield?
You know, it feels good to be back. Can't believe we're already at the first day of 2025, and there's no better way to ring in 2025 with a little toast, if you will. So cheers to 2025.
Cheers, 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 yes, absolutely.
Refreshing, nonetheless. But I feel good. Happy to be back. Also happy enough to had a productive season with fantasy football, so therefore, champs.
Oh!
That's right. Fourth place, baby. Fourth place in the college league. Sixth place in the listener league. I'm feeling pretty good about myself after a very productive year. So the champ is here.
The champ is here. I'm glad you brought that up because we do have a first place victor in the MinneZona League as well. He probably he's going to be getting the MinneZona bundle coming his way. Before we reveal, and you probably saw it on social medias, but before we reveal who that is, next year we will be doing a buy-in. So we will be doing that before the season, seeing just to have money towards it and whatnot, change some things up. We won't. Don't worry, we won't jump it up super high. Still MinneZona bundle, the whole deal. So, thank you to all who participated, and congratulations to Tyler Hermann. Yes, Tyler Hermann, our guy, got it done against Zach Huntley. Good, great season for Hunts as well. A lot of trades were made for sure that he did, so we got that going for us. But I think things will be changing a little bit once we get money involved in this as well. So
Of course.
You'll be happy to know, zoners, that we'll be having that going on next year as well. I know our consultant, creative consultant, will be ready to roll again. She was fantastic.
Absolutely.
Her and Amber were awesome. So clap out to them.
Great. Big fan.
Lot of competitive games from them, and they were very good. So they were up there.
Yep.
With that being said, though, guys, last week for Pick'em, this is going to be a very interesting week. There have been a lot of ups and a lot of downs, and this final week for Pick'em is not easy. It's not easy at all. I mean, some of the matchups, who's going to be resting, who's going to, even if they rest, are they going to win even? Who knows? This is crazy. So get those picks in. You could be winning the MinneZona bundle if you get first, and your choice of a signed mini helmet of Drake London, Terrell Davis, and Breece Hall. So you have those choices. And then second, we'll get whoever takes the first. It's kind of like Pokemon, Yeah. You take Squirtle, the next person will take Bulbasaur, the whole deal. So I had to throw that in there. Got to catch them all.
Gotta catch
That's
'em all.
right.
Pokemon.
So get those picks in. We will see how everybody does. A lot of people are making moves. Voldy, like you were saying, you're making some moves as well. So,
Hey, 14-2 last week. I'm on the come up. I go undefeated this week. I'm back in the mix, baby.
watch out. That's all I gotta say. So get those picks in, and like I said, a lot of matchups. Over Christmas, our Minnesota Vikings took down those Green Bay Packers. Yes. We'll be talking about that to start off, and then we're going to talk about those Wolves. It's a lot of – it started bad. It was they starting to get it going, and then it just kind of been a roller coaster. We'll talk about that for Hot Take tonight, and then we talk about for Callahan School of Logic, the huge matchup between the Detroit Lions and the Minnesota Vikings. I have some thoughts. I think Zoners and Voldy, you will obviously chime in on this as well. There's a lot to be said about this game. This is probably one of the biggest regular season games in recent memory. In some time. So we'll talk about that. Callahan School of Logic. ARA, we have a good set of ARAs this week. We've got Kirko getting cut before 2025. We'll talk about our guy Kirko. More on that. And then former NFL stars coaching college, deseanjackson, Mikevick. Wow, that's a lot of guys there. And the big hit heard around the NHL, Rempe with a 8-game suspension. I did see that video. We will be talking about that. And also the NHL draft format. Then they're going to switch it up. We're going to have to talk about that as well. And to round things off, Colorado Insures Star Players. So a lot to debate on that one. And shield shoutouts. Voldy has a plethora of shield shoutouts tonight. So we got a lot to talk about. So without further ado, I think we need to get this going. Let's get it going with some Tater Tot Hot Take.
Fresh out of the oven, it's Tater Tot Hot Take.
All right, it is time for some Tater Tot Hot Take. The champ is here with the EC Dub Championship for Fantasy Pick'em, the whole deal. We start off with that big win for our purple, the Minnesota Vikings. Beat the Green Bay Packers 27-25. Yes, sir. Let's go. Yeah. So there's a lot to be said about this game. This game, for instance, the Vikings had a 27-10 lead going into the fourth, I believe, or maybe it was third, whatever it was. But they ultimately, there was a lot of trash talking, Voldy. There was a lot of trash talking from Packer fans. They were saying, we're going to go into Minnesota. We're going to expose, or they're all frauds, and they don't know what they're talking about, and things like that. We may have lost the Lions and lost the Vikings earlier in the season, but we're better than them, everything like that.
Wrong.
If last Sunday wasn't a sign, the Minnesota Vikings are, in fact, better than the Green Bay Packers. They scored 3 in the first, and then the Vikings pretty much took over the second, 13 in the second, 14 in the third. Didn't score any in the fourth, which Packers started to make a little bit of a run. And, we don't want to have that happen. But they hold on to win. Sammy D, B-D-D, Voldy got it done with 377 yards passing, 33 of 43, 3 touchdowns, 1 interception, and it happens. But he was efficient. He was getting it done. And the Vikings now go into Detroit here this upcoming Sunday. We'll talk more about that game in School of Logic. But Voldy, what are your thoughts on the Vikings' huge victory over the Green Bay Packers this past Sunday?
I told myself from the game earlier this year at Lambeau, the Vikings needed to get 30 points to win this contest. They didn't get 30 points. but they still won. The one thing that really did concern me was the fact that they were up 27-10 heading into that fourth quarter. Green Bay had a couple of drives going, but the defense was able to get them off the field a few times, but still the offense wasn't really able to reciprocate when it needed to most. One thing, you go back to that interception in the second half from Sam Darnold by Valentine. If they get that ball in the end zone after another turnover, I think that game is well over at that point. And Green Bay made a serious run at it. I said that they needed to stop the run. The Vikings needed to. And Josh Jacobs, he got his touches, ended up with 69 yards rushing. Nice. But, obviously kept them under 100 yards rushing in total. 167 yards passing from Jordan Love. But the offense made plays when they needed to. For the Vikings, that is. That crucial catch to make it a first down near the very end of the game to Cam Akers. I was holding my breath the entire way until I saw that he actually caught it and was a first down. It was great to see that. Another bit of concern, too, Will Reichard missing field goals. I don't know what's up with that, but a couple of long ones and one that just doinked off the post there again. That could be something of concern, but I'd rather him miss them now than at the most crucial times here in the postseason, but still getting that overall pressure from the defense. And again, a very solid performance from them, sacking in, Jordan Love. But Blake Cashman, really nice performance out of him with 11 tackles, a sack and a half for him too. With that tackle, winning the turnover battle is definitely crucial here, especially coming into this game against Detroit too. But overall, very solid performance. So we'll only get that 30-point threshold. We get over that mark, we were in the clear for sure.
Whenever it's funny because whenever I get a snap from someone during a Vikings game, it's usually my cousin. You know who he is, and that is Jason Schmitz. This is what he says. Are you ready for this? The talk around town here is that the Packers are going to own the Vikings that game, and you almost choked. Thank God you guys ended up holding on and helped my Rams clinch. Well, you're welcome on that front. And the fact that, we almost choked, granted, we should have went down there and ended it. But, Voldy, you brought it up. The missed field goal kicks from Will the Thrill, our guy, is very troublesome. I mean, at that point, if he hits at least, let's just say he hits at least one of those. Yes, he did get bailed out by the neutral zone infraction on the.
That was a big help.
Yeah, that was a big help. Granted, not saying, and I know it's indoors, 57 yards was the first missed one, hit the crossbar. Okay, it's not easy when it gets to that point. But you should be making that. He missed that 43-yarder. That was big. We were still up 27-10. If he hits that field goal, they're up 30-10. I mean, it's pretty much over at that point.
It's over.
So, I'm not saying that as an excuse, but what I'm saying is that we need to make those kicks in order to have that comfortable victory. Now, our defense was on the field a little bit more than it was in the first half. And again, it came to the point where it's like, we can't be doing this prevent defense all the time. We got to at least get pressure on Love, get him down, because that dude was shook. I mean, he didn't know what the hell was going on. The passing from him was terrible. I mean, on the interception that Valentine, Carrington, whatever his name is, he got it to like the 20, and all the Packers really had to do was go a couple yards. Josh Jacobs goes in for the touchdown. So, obviously, we don't want that happening, but you got to make those stops. You can't, if you play like that against Detroit, you're in big trouble. I mean, it's that simple. So, almost choked, but almost choke is still a win. And thank you to Cam Akers. Oh, by the way, a former Ram too. Just saying. But it was really cool. He got the job done. Darnold was a little concerned because when he threw it, he said, I didn't get the most on it, but Cam was ready to roll. He got it. Got the first down. We're on to Detroit for the division and the 1 seed. So, so I brought up the Reichard thing. I said, the missed kicks. Another issue that I feel like it's not talked about as much, Cam Robinson. I don't know what's going on with him because the Vikings on that Justin Jefferson one-handed catch, which didn't count because of holding call on Cam Robinson, there's a lot of pre-snap penalties he's been having. That needs to change because, I mean, we can't do that against Detroit. It's imperative for them to understand that the offensive line's been very good, don't get me wrong, but the pre-snap penalties, we can't be, shooting ourselves in the foot, the whole deal from that. So Cam Robinson's got to clean that up, and, we just got to be well-balanced in the rushing game. I know Jonesy got hurt a little bit, but it seems like he's okay. Pat Jones had an injury that at first looked really bad. It's funny, Tucker Kraft talked about how, Kirby Joseph was going low at the knees and everything like that. He just literally did the same thing to Pat Jones. Like, what the hell are you talking about? So anyway, overall, I was very impressed by how Jalen Naylor played, man. I mean, good God. We were just talking about recently, Voldy, the drops, the one against Tennessee was kind of a big one. He had that muffed punt against Green Bay earlier in the season. Yeah. But, man, he really turned it on.
You can't fault him for that. You can't fault him for that. Brandon Powell was hurt, and then you put a guy that probably hasn't, overly fielded punts, throughout much of the season at that point, or it's been some time. He's not the regular punt returner, and, ultimately forgive him for that. We won the game, obviously, but, you look back on it, it didn't hurt all that much.
But from that punt too, it's super bright out, and it's still and it's tough to track that ball. I'm giving him the benefit of the doubt, but he did have some key drops during the season. But now you look what the stat line he had: 5 receptions, 81 yards, and a tutty. And that touchdown. You can focus in on Addison Jefferson all you want. We're gonna throw it up to Naylor. We're gonna dump it down to Hawkinson. They have so many weapons offensively. This is what we want to see from Jalen Naylor. We got to see it consistently. So that's a big thing for us. But it feels good to get the sweep, Voldy, against Green Bay. I think, like you said, defensively, we got to love a couple times. Cashman getting it done. The Ginkster, obviously, in on that sack as well. We got to do more of that this upcoming Sunday, and we'll talk about that as well. So, Voldy, the fumble, the first drive, the Packers wanted the ball. Big mistake. Josh Jacobs fumbles the ball. Jerry Tillery, claps out to him, by the way. Heck of a play, knocks the ball out. Cam Bynum recovers. What did you think of the High School Musical celebration? What'd you think?
Now we're getting to the point where we're just getting deeper and deeper in the bag. What's the next one going to be? I've seen some put out there for some other Disney, related group celebrations, but man, that was pretty good. I'm not going to lie. Didn't watch High School Musical. Don't know a single one of them. I couldn't tell you.
That's fine.
That's perfectly fine. That's when I stopped watching the Disney Channel. But that one was good. That one, I even knew the Camp Rock one. Never even saw Camp Rock ever. But I was like, wait a second, that's Camp Rock. That's awesome. I love
My
that.
sister pointed it out, and I was just the Camp Rock one. But I was just like,
nah.
I thought that at first. That was my thought as well. I was like, wait, crap.
I had to think for a second. It's like, wait a second. I know that. What is that from? That's Camp Rock. That's awesome. But yes,
right.
The High School Musical one was good. So be interesting to see what we've got in store here for Sunday, hopefully.
Lucas says, skol. I hope we have 5+ more celebrations to go this year. Let's roll. Let's skol. The whole kit and caboodle. One last thing, and then we're going to move on to Wolves. And then, remember, Callahan School of Logic. We're still talking Vikings. We're going to talk more about Lions, Vikings here after Tater Tot Hot Take here. So keep tuned in with us with that. One last thing. Sam Darnold's performance, fantastic. He goes into the locker room and he gets drenched with water, which was awesome, by the way.
Yeah.
Voldy, just before that, he was interviewing with Tom Brady, and he asked what LFG meant. I don't know if you saw that, but he asked what he goes, let's bleep it. And he's like, oh, I get it. I was like, dang, I can't believe Sam Darnold didn't put two and two together.
I'm sure he was just trying to maybe catch Tom off guard there or something. Maybe try to get him to slip up a little bit. But
he's a smart guy.
That wouldn't surprise me. That wouldn't surprise me if he didn't know. He's been kind of focused as of late on it.
Yeah, and we want him locked in as well. He did make a reference of Talladega Nights in the press conference. He said, I don't know what to do with my hands. What do I do with my hands? Oh, I love it. And, man, this team's rolling. I love this team. And, Sammy D, BDD, he's getting it done. We'll talk more about Darnold here in School of Logic. But Vikes win. Lions next. More on that in a little bit. All right. So let's move on over to the Minnesota Timberwolves. Man, I don't know what to really say. It seems to me that this team has not looked like what we kind of expected them to be in some aspect. They're slightly above 500, thankfully. It's not like they're at the bottom of the barrel per se, but you'd like to see them start to kind of get things going. Now, we talked about the Cat trade. Let's just kind of move on from that whole thing and just kind of focus on the here and now with this team. There are a lot of instances where the Timberwolves seem to not want to move the ball around. You have guys like Julius Randle hogging the ball and just trying to make a play. And it's like, listen, man, we got other playmakers on this team besides Ant, besides you, Julius Randle. I mean, good Lord. Mike Conley hasn't been great offensively, unfortunately. A lot of people are saying they want Dillingham in there, and I think it wouldn't hurt to have him in there more.
Honestly,
So, now that the New Year's over, they had the Christmas games and everything like that. They've kind of moved on. But people say the season doesn't start till after Christmas. Well, now that we're at the new year, the Wolves just lost to OKC the other night. But OKC is playing really good defense. They're one of the top teams in the Western Conference. So my question to you, Voldy, and to the Zoners as well. What do the Wolves have to do to kind of right the ship here a little bit coming these next few months?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I think a lot more focus, sadly, has been put into the team with the amount of fines that Ant's been putting up with his colorful language on post games and media interviews and all that. But performance on the court and a few things that you pointed out that I highly agree on as well. I mean, Mike Conley's not getting any younger. He's not aging very well out there, and it's a fast league. It's getting to a younger league, and I think it's time. The only way we're going to learn to see what Dillingham has is by putting him out there and learning on the fly, basically. I mean, there's going to be moments where it's not going to look good. There are going to be some chances where things are going to look great. But for him to learn how to be a point guard in this league is through that opportunity on the floor. And obviously they've got him on the team. He's not playing down in the G League right now. Otherwise he would be, he'd probably be facilitating quite well for the Iowa Wolves right now, but he's on this team for a specific reason, to be, mentored and taken under the wing by Mike Conley. Now, whether or not Mike Conley is in that stage of his career and wants to do that, or if he's still trying to capture that last little bit of magic, if he does have, is something that will definitely need to be taken into consideration when it comes to setting up the lineup. And, you also look at one thing you mentioned, obviously, with guys trying to make a play. Julius Randle, DiVincenzo, and obviously Ant. Those are the three guys you look at. They are the ones that are looked upon to make obviously the big plays, if you will, but now facilitating and saying, okay, who's going to be the one to make said plays and not hold the ball longer? That's something that'll definitely have to be adjusted. I know that with Randall, he's trying to definitely make the right impression and maybe prove a few people wrong, whether it been previously the Lakers or previously with the Knicks as well. He wants to prove all the doubters wrong. Yeah, that's great. But you don't have to do that by hogging the ball the whole time when you've got Anthony Edwards out there on the floor, who's definitely not afraid of making plays. And then you've got DiVincenzo as well, who's probably got a bigger chip on his shoulder compared to Julius Randle, which is saying something, in trying to prove not just the teams that he's played for, but the whole league wrong, and saying why he belongs in this league. And the less you hear about Rudy Gobert is probably a good thing, considering coming into last season, how that was going to work with the combination of Cat, Naz Reid, and Gobert. The less you hear of Rudy Gobert when it comes to, overall team play is probably for the better as well, considering, reigning defensive player of the year. And you haven't really heard, good things or bad things about him, is probably a good thing for his overall play too.
That's a good point, because, they've gone with the lineup of having Randall at the 4, and it hasn't paid a whole lot of dividends. +3 in point differential, 113.8 points per possession. But if you put together Randall, DiVincenzo, Alexander Walker on, it goes up to 11.2 point differential, 123 points per possession. So, I mean, it's kind of just shuffling, I don't want to question Finchie at all, because he knows what he's doing. And that's it's quite evident. But the thing is that I think he needs to realize, like, Mike Conley I think needs to be rested more, because he's not going to age like one LeBron James, right? And it's sad to see, because we love Minnesota Mike Conley. But it's just, again, father time catches up to you. But you mentioned the Ant stuff too, and, a lot of people on the socials medias were talking about this too, is that, Ant just can't necessarily help himself because of, just how he is. Now, why has this started to become a problem? Like last year, bring your ass. He said, I told those mother effers that we'd be back for Game 7. And they didn't do anything then, so what's the big deal? Like, you know what I mean? Like, why do you keep finding him? Just bleep it out. That's all you got to do. But that's just kind of who he is. And, I think he's trying to take the reins, but I think he needs to ease back a little bit, just because, he's still a young gun, right? And he's learning, he's playing a lot better. And I think they just need to have this cohesiveness here these next few months, because if they don't, they're in big trouble. They're going to be in the play-in game, and you don't want to do that. But if they want to get back in the top 5 or the top even 6 or 7 seed, they gotta have some camaraderie, because if you don't have that coming up here, you're going to get smoked by a lot of these teams in the West, and OKC being one of them, because they're damn good. Gilgeous-Alexander's just been amazing, so they gotta figure it out quickly. Lucas says, I think Ant needs to shoot the ball more and be more active early. I think that's a fair point. He makes a very good point, because if he gets a quick start, then guys feed off of that, and then they start to follow him. You have by the way, acknowledge your tribal chief, Naz Reid. We love Naz Reid here. Get it to Naz Reid. Get it to Nickeil Alexander-Walker when he's in. DiVincenzo's been playing a lot better from 3 these past few games. So I just want to see some cohesiveness, just kind of being together, working as a team. And it seems like at the beginning, guys were kind of getting frustrated. Gobert and Randall and some of these other. Now I think it's kind of settled down. They've kind of, put things together a little bit. Now let's get on a streak of like winning 7 in a row, 8 in a row, things like that.
Yep.
See how it kind of goes from there. So we will keep an eye on the Wolves, and we'll see how it goes. But the one thing I want to say here, too, Julius Randle, pass the ball. That's all I got to say. Pass the damn ball. Look, you're a good player. Sometimes you can do that, hog the ball, and if you're hot. But listen, if you're not hitting, you got to pass the ball, my guy. You have to.
Have to.
That's all. That's all I got to say about that. So, go Wolves. We'll keep again. We'll have Zapp on here at some point, or Cole or Will Rattel. Been a while with him. So that leads us to Callahan School of Logic this week. This might be a little bit lengthy, but I do want to get everybody's thoughts too, because this game on Sunday is it's probably one of the biggest regular season games of recent memory. You have two teams that are trying to fight for the number 1 seed and win the division, for instance. The loser goes down to the number 5 seed in the wild card, probably taking on Tampa Bay. I doubt it would be Atlanta. I don't see Atlanta, making it with that. But if not, then whatever. But anyway, I'm just going to kind of give my thoughts on it a little bit, and just kind of there's a lot to talk about with this national media coverage, the how both teams are playing, things like that. So I'm going to try to keep it rolling, because I do want your thoughts, Voldy, and the Zoners' thoughts here in the chat about this game upcoming too. So with that being said, let's head into class. Let's get your books, get your pens, pad of paper, the whole deal. It's time for Callahan School of Logic.
Class is in session. You're enrolled in Callahan's School of Logic.
All right, it is time for Callahan School of Logic. Get your pens, papers, pencils, whatever you need with a writing utensil. If you need to type it, feel free. Good one. Anyway, so the battle for the North. Like I said, to rattle this off, ever since the win on Sunday, Voldy Zoners, I've been going through all the scenarios in my head. Like, what do the Vikings need to do to beat this juggernaut that is the Detroit Lions? What do they need to do in order to win a game at Ford Field against a raucous crowd? A lot of teams, or a lot of people have pegged the Lions as the team to beat. Are the Vikings up to the task? Can they get it done? Again, this is just rolling through my head ever since Sunday. Now, now that the Vikings are in this position, though, guys, it seems to me the narrative has shifted for the national sports media. And their coverage of the team there's been a lot happening with that. They see that the Vikings are for real, and some of them have jumped on the bandwagon. And not only that, but they praise Sam Darnold, KOC, Jay Jettas, obviously, etc., Addison. There are some who say, what do they do about Darnold? I mean, what's the future? Should they keep him or let him walk? Oh, let's figure out his future right now and everything. Season's not over yet. Why are we talking about something as if the Vikings are just going to lose in the playoffs? Like they're just already writing them off, and it's like, guys, we don't need to worry about that right now. He's playing well. We don't have to talk about, like, everyone's got an opinion. They should re-sign him. No, they let him walk. McCarthy's the real deal. This is it. Let's focus on the here and now. Let's see what they can do against Detroit in this last regular season game. This is very similar, Voldy, to a situation that the Vikings had with our guy, Case Keenum. Now, in 2017, it showed Case Keenum playing well. He had the weapons around him, had the defense and everything like that. But the difference between that situation and the situation we're currently in right now is that, one, Case Keenum was a guy that wasn't well liked by Mike Zimmer. Zimmer was like, he was more of a Teddy guy. We've talked about this on the show about Mike Zimmer and Case Keenum, that relationship. He didn't want him as QB1. He didn't have much belief in him. And he proved that in the offseason, saying, listen, are we going to get the Case Keenum of last year, or are we going to get him this? That whole ordeal. We don't need to go much more into that. But the difference between what happened with that and this is that Darnold is not only wanted by he wants to be in Minnesota. He has publicly said that. He has gained respect from his teammates, organization for sure, the coaching staff, and guess what? Us, the fans. The fans are excited, and he has been playing amazing, and people have belief that he can do this, and he sure has shown it this whole season. For them to discuss his future, and we haven't even finished the season yet, it's absurd, guys. Like, it's just, we don't need to talk about. Let's talk about the game coming up on Sunday, not, should they re-sign Sam Darnold? Just shut up. Shut up. So that's kind of my thought on that, but it's just, it's like they're writing him off, and they think, they're going to lose in the first round. They're going to lose to the Bucs if they lose to the Lions. They're going to lose to the Bucs in Tampa and this and that. You don't know that. We haven't played that game on Sunday yet. So it's just like some of these national like Rex Ryan and some of these other guys, it's just like, they're going to, they got to do X, Y, and Z. It's like they don't listen to you. They don't care what you think. We're not worried about that yet. Kwesi's not sitting there being like, we should probably re-sign him right now. Let the season play out. Now, it's not everybody in the national sports media. There has been a lot of love. Voldy, I was watching a YouTube segment with Rich Eisen. He talks about how remarkable this season has been for the Vikings. Sam Darnold, KOC, Colin Cowherd's been on the bandwagon too, explaining I was right about Sam Darnold, but that's kind of but we're still very good. Then you have right. Pat McAfee's of the world, who again he's very positive with them and everything like that. And there's more national media members that have praised the Vikings. So there are some, but there's still that people that they haven't won over, and that's fine with us. You know what? If we win on Sunday, they'll know. They will know. It confirms that they'll always pinpoint all the issues with the Vikings, their history of losing. They choke in the playoffs. They this, they that. You guys are just going to ignore the fact that, no disrespect, but the Detroit Lions have been losing since their inception in the NFL before Dan Campbell arrived.
Yep.
We're gonna ignore that fact. But it's Lions are just amazing. Man, but the injuries and everything, they'll be fine. Not a big deal. Good Lord, we know this, but it's flyover country. This and that. It's okay to admit that the Minnesota Vikings are not a good, but great team. Mm-hmm. And they have a chance to win the Super Bowl. And, no one should be mocked or ridiculed as a fan for believing in this group right now. They're 14-2. They're about to fight for the division. I mean, this is unprecedented. And, I have to ask, some of these naysayers and everything like that, who's going to win the NFC? Could be Detroit, could be the Vikings, could be the Eagles, Could be the Rams. I'm even throwing in the Rams there because they've been playing very well. They have a very good offense, and their defense is starting to come around a little bit. But it is wide open. I mean, it is wide open in the NFC. So every single team has flaws now. Don't get me wrong. They have flaws. But including the Vikings, I will say, too. And there's no team that you're just like, that's the team. Because you look at Detroit, they're having practice squad guys play. I mean, it's just kind of how it is. But let's look ahead to this game here. It will not be the end of the road for either team. And I'm putting respect on the Detroit Lions name because, like I just mentioned before, you know, you'd have to go on the road, unfortunately, as the 5 seed, going to Tampa, which isn't a bad place to play. It's, you know, well, depending on the weather. But but both Minnesota and Detroit have had success on the road this season. The Vikings being 6-1, could very well be 7-1 here after Sunday. And the Lions, they're 8-0 on the road. So this is these are teams that can still, even whoever loses on Sunday, they still have a chance to get to an NFC Championship game, to the Super Bowl and everything like that. So, you know, it's still very big. It's going to suck either way because, you know, if you lose this game, you know, there's no arguing that, you know, there's no arguing that it's, you know, you wanted to win the division. You wanted to have that bye and everything like that. But the stakes are so high, and especially that nobody predicted that the Vikings would be this good, which makes it a compelling story for the NFL to market. Sam Darnold resurgence, B-Flow, Kevin O'Connell being just a guru with these quarterbacks and everything like that. And by the way, NFL, you're welcome. So, to round things off here, Voldy, the logic in this comes Sunday. Enjoy the game as much as you can. It has been a magical season for the Minnesota Vikings. Every game has been close, mostly, I should say, besides the Texans game. They kicked ass. But they, you know, just enjoy this. Whether you're a Vikings fan, Lions fan, it doesn't matter. These teams, in my humble opinion, if I were to say right now, I'd say these are the 2 best teams in the NFC. And you could make the argument with the Eagles and everything like that, but good Lord, is Jalen Hurts coming back? Kenny Pickett just broke his ribs. You're going to have that McKee guy really be your guy? I don't know if you're getting by any of us, but especially if it's at Detroit or Minnesota. So I think they're the 2. This is going to be a heavyweight fight. Each team throws jabs, haymakers, uppercuts. But I think it comes down to who wins the turnover battle. That's one. And who is going to win at the line of scrimmage. Is it going to be the Vikings O-line? Going to be the Detroit D-line? They have Zadarius on there. He's going to want some revenge, I'd assume. And same thing, Vikings D-line against their O-line, which their O-line is damn good, as we both know. So it comes down to that. But, Voldy, Zoners, this is what I'm doing, all right?
Oh, boy.
This game is going to be a knock 'em out, drag 'em out game. This is going to be a street fight, like I said before, heavyweight battle, Rocky Balboa versus Apollo Creed. You got guys like Muhammad Ali versus Joe Frazier. I mean, the list goes on and on. I have our Minnesota Vikings, Voldy, winning in Detroit, 34-31.
Huge.
Skol! Skol! Skol!
Like it.
Let's get it done. So, I have to feel that way because there's something about this team, man. There's really something about this team that I just but if they lose this game, don't lose hope. That's all I gotta say. Don't lose hope, guys. They can get there. So, Voldy, your thoughts, anything you want to add for the battle for the North here on Sunday? What do you got?
I mean, this is very well could be a preview of the NFC Championship game. If it shakes out that way, could very well be that fashion this contest. I mean, I love the fact that you brought up the battle at the line of scrimmage. That was one thing I was going to mention too. The Lions offensive line outside of Philadelphia, probably the best in the NFL right now. I mean, they've got veteran experience. They've got guys that win battles left and right. They know how to, keep the defensive line at bay to allow time for Jared Goff, even opening up holes for Jahmyrgibbs. That's what's been a huge success for them this season. And at times, Detroit does get a little bit creative and a little bit tricky with some of their plays from their offensive coordinator and Ben Johnson. So that's one thing you definitely have to keep an eye on, too, when they start breaking out the trickeration like they did with that hook and lateral touchdown they had against San Fran. I think a very much a winnable game for the Vikings. Just the way that they limit the turnovers on a banged-up defense as Detroit. This could very well be a very much a win for the Vikings. They win the turnover battle, they win the game. It's as easy as that. That's the way I'm looking at it. That first go around, I mean, the first time they won, was it 27-24? It was a field goal at the very end that got the win for
31-29. Yep.
Yeah, 31-29. Obviously, it was a one-score difference, and that's what, the Vikings get a first down on that final drive. They win the game with that four-minute offense that they had out on the field. Unfortunately, couldn't get it done. A little bit questionable play calling early in the season, but this time around, they are very well suited. They know what they have working offensively with their run game. Aaronjones, if he's 100%, I'm sure in the second half of the game against Green Bay, he was probably feeling a little bit more, pain in his leg that he's been dealing with for this season. Saw a lot more of Cam Akers, some of Ty Chandler in the second half, but I'm sure he's going to be shouldering a lot of the burden in the run game coming up here on Sunday with that matchup against the Lions. But the fact that we've got much more depth in the receiving core with Jalen Naylor, with, of course, the tight end game with Johnny Munt and TJ Hawkinson, Addison, Jay Jettas on top of it, I see this one as a win too. I'm going to go 31-28 Minnesota for the victory.
First of all, I love it, Voldy. You mentioned Hawk. I think this is a revenge game for Hawk. Let's not forget.
Got to get him in the end zone. This week.
Let's not forget that son of a bitch, Kirby Joseph, was the one who gave him that torn ACL. And the week after, he did that to Tyler Higbee. Now, I want the Vikings to kind of be like, okay, you're probably looking at Jay Jettas, Addison, and everything like that. You're going to try to contain Naylor, but forget about the guy that you drafted, T.J. Hawkinson, baby. That's who I'm looking at as being this an X factor in this game is one T.J. Hawkinson. So it'll be key for them to get him the ball. I know Darnold's been starting to hit him more recently and whatnot.
Yeah, had some big catches last week.
Exactly, and we mentioned this in our analysis with the Green Bay game. Will Reichard, I was having a conversation with somebody about this recently. You can't. There's the idea. Well, why don't you just go and get John Parker Romo? You know what that's going to do is that says you don't have belief in your guy, the guy that you drafted. And whatnot. And, I mean, he's just going to be gone. And then when he's gone and someone else picks him up, see what happened to Daniel Carlson. So, I think if you're in Minnesota right now, you got to say, we still believe in you. We know that you're probably – I think he's maybe still dealing with that injury a little bit. I'm not saying that he's fully recovered. Maybe he is. I don't know. But – I think maybe that's ailing him a little bit, but you got to instill confidence in the guy. I still think he's a cold-blooded sniper. I still believe that. I still think he can get it done. And again, this is indoors. I'm picking them to win 34-31. I think it's going to come down to, or 34-31. It's going to come down to a Will Reichard late field goal. So, but I'm keeping my fingers crossed. I think he's going to have much better game here to end things off. So we are going to need him. We're going to need him big time. So. That's going to do it for Callahan School of Logic. Skol, 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 the battle for the North. Battles have been won against greater odds, as Jon Snow once said. And before we, on a lighter note, Voldy, we made our predictions, everything like that. Do you see what's, it might be my right shoulder if you're looking my way. But over this left shoulder right here, do you see what's back there? You see that?
Oh, yeah, I see it.
Jake Jettas, baby. Got that for Christmas. Yes. Thank you to my younger sister, Maria, for getting me that. Her boyfriend obviously helped with that as well. But it is sick. It's so sick. I mean, it's whoever made this, who did the painting for it, thank you. This is badass. I love it. So Jay Jettas, if you want to sign it or something, I'd be more than happy to send it to you. You got bigger fish to fry. Don't worry about that. We can worry about that maybe in the off season. After the season. We'll get it done. So that'll do it for Callahan School of Logic, and you'll be hearing us on the socials medias, that's for sure. Come Sunday. So, with that being said, it's time to do some A or A. We've got Kirkcousins possibly getting cut before 2025. We've got former NFL stars to coach college. We've got an NHL player suspended 6 games for a hit on one of another player, and now the NHL going to switch it up on the draft format. And to round things off, we've got Colorado insuring the star players with our guy Tate. Look at that guy. He's ready to roll, man. He's ready to roll. So, without further ado, let's get it going. What's up? Observe or approved. Boom.
It's time for everyone's favorite segment, Absurd or Approved.
All right, it is time for Absurd or Approved. So, Voldy, Tate, why don't you rattle them off for us, please?
Well, after the last couple of games and some troublesome starts for Kirk Cousins down in Atlanta, reports are coming out that quite possibly Kirk Cousins could get released by the Atlanta Falcons after the first year of his 4-year, $180 million contract before his $10 million roster bonus is due on March 17th of 2025. Hard to believe we're already talking about it, with it being January 1st of 2025. Now, of course, it has been a very more down than up season for Kirk Cousins, the last handful of games for him. Of course, at one point throwing more interceptions than actual touchdowns. In fact, he went about 4 games without throwing a touchdown and had 8 interceptions before he got benched 2 games ago for the first-round draft pick in Michael Penix Jr., who has been showing some promise with a win over the New York Giants and subsequently falling late in overtime against the Washington Commanders this past week with the promise of that first-round draft pick in Michael Penix Jr. Now, with everything put into it, of course, the turnovers that kind of loomed large for Kirk Cousins after the Achilles injury for him, now throwing into the big salary cap hit that he could present coming up for the 2025 season. Is it absurd or approved? Would it be best for the Falcons to release Kirk Cousins before that $10 million roster bonus does kick in?
It's a great question because, I still think, and I don't know about you, Voldy, but I think he's still ailing from that injury. And I'm not saying it's not for lack of he didn't rehab well enough or he didn't do the. I just think that he doesn't look the same. And, he's in this situation with Atlanta. He got the bag. He got a bunch of money. He's riding high off that and whatnot. And he hasn't performed. Now, I know that he's gone into this new system and everything like that, but it can't excuse the fact that he's turning over the ball. Because that's so unlike Kirk Cousins. Because, I mean, here in Minnesota, yeah, he had a couple, interceptions here and there and whatnot. But the crazy thing to me is that I just don't think he's 100% healthy. You see the glimpses. You see the glimpses of, throws that, he usually makes. But then against us, he just throws. I mean, Metellus was right there. Byron Murph went and just took care of business, got it, picked it off. Yep. So, to answer the question, I would probably Kirko. There's no. It's not personal. It's just business, but I think it's got my stamp of approval. I think that they should move on from Kirko. Cut him so you don't have that big, cap hit that he will, have on your team and whatnot. So I love you, Kirko, but I just don't see it anymore, man. I'm sorry, but Michael Penix looks good. I mean, it's still very early, but I think that they will. It's got my stamp of approval. Voldy, Tate, what do you got?
Immediate reaction, I'd say absolutely cut off the dead weight and let him find somewhere else. Because there's other teams that could use a veteran quarterback at a league minimum. I mean, he would get the veterans minimum bonus, minimum contract, $1.2 million guaranteed for him. Very much to the similar reason that Russell Wilson ended up with the Pittsburgh Steelers this season. I think now thinking about it a little bit more. $10 million for him after 16 interceptions, league leading, 12 fumbles, which is tied for the league lead with Baker Mayfield of all people on top of it. You want to say that it's because of the injury on top of it, maybe poor decision making, trying to adjust to a new system, things kind of passing back and forth. I mean, they still have a chance to make the playoffs. They're going to need a lot of help, if at all. Right now, I would say you got to keep Kirk Cousins. I think you keep that veteran quarterback presence because who do they got behind Kirko at that point? I don't know who the third string guy is behind Kirk Cousins, but having that veteran experience does help a lot. And it could very well shape how Kirko, maybe battles out the season. Because again, you're always one play away from getting back into the starting role. Sadly, especially for Michael Penix Jr., who has had some knee troubles in the past in college when he was at Indiana before going to Washington. That is something that is a reality. I think it's more about, I think the system that they played with Kirk at the start of the season was not really suited to his strong suits, a lot more out of the shotgun. He's more an under center bootleg quarterback type on top of it, but they're getting him a lot out of the shotgun. And that just led to a few things, maybe not being 100%. Maybe it's a mental thing. I don't know. Maybe he still thinks he's not 100% healthy and that he thinks the Achilles is still bugging him. I say right now, I mean, it's not that Arthur Blank is short on money. At any point, I think they keep him for at least next season just to see, again, because you're always one play away from getting back in that starting role. I say that Kirko stays. It's got my stamp of approval.
Hey,
I should say it's absurd. I don't think it'd be best for the Falcons to get rid of him.
Well, I don't know. And if they do, I think the Browns are a team that might be very interested.
They're looking for veterans.
There's options out there.
Yeah, there's the Bears. He's a Illinois guy. I mean, San Francisco as a very extremely dark horse on top of it. But I think Julie would probably have some conversation over Kirk. Like, we're not moving again. I'm staying here. You go do you.
Oh my God,
Kirko, chill. Anyway, but we'll see. It's going to be interesting offseason for the Atlanta Falcons. That is for sure. So, all right, next one, Voldy.
Well, heading to the world of college football, of course, it be getting a bit of a facelift with Bill Belichick is signing to be head coach for the University of North Carolina. Now, a couple former NFL stars will be taking their ranks to the college level. It was reported this past week that former NFL quarterback Mike Vick will be the head coach at Norfolk State after initial reports coming out that Sacramento State was in the running for his job, but Norfolk State in the area of where Mike Vick grew up in the Newport News, Virginia area is somewhat a little bit closer to him. And of course, this past week, sources coming out that former Philadelphia Eagles wide receiver, NFL receiver on top of that, DeSean will be taking his talents to Delaware State, another HBCU program that will be getting a much needed facelift for at the head coaching position for him, or at least that will be a head coaching job for DeSean Jackson at the collegiate level. Of course, now this is a running trend of former NFL stars taking their talents to the collegiate level. Of course, most notably with Deion Sanders at Colorado, Jackson State, Eddie George at Tennessee State. I did get to see him in person when they played NDSU earlier this year. But with, of course, Mike Vick and DeSean Jackson now going to be head coaches in college, is it absurd or approved? Will one of them or both of them have success at the collegiate level as a head coach?
It's a great question. So I feel like Mike Vick, I think we did this last time too with Vic, him being at Norfolk. But I think I think Vic is going to have the more success than DeSean Jackson. I think after Vic, the whole dogfighting thing, he gets out and, he has this awesome season with Philadelphia, or couple, maybe season and a half, or however it was.
A couple good seasons with Philly,
a couple good seasons and whatnot. And he's been kind of, just kind of hopping on shows, giving insights and, talking to football and whatnot, which is great. And he's very knowledgeable. He knows the game. He's definitely changed his, he's definitely changed since his playing days with Atlanta and everything along those lines. So there's a lot to be said with Vic. I think he'll be very successful. He'll instill a culture that I think is going to be, infectious, and the guys are going to want to play with him. Now let's talk about DeSean Jackson for a second. I'm a little surprised about the Delaware State thing. It's tough with him because in his playing days, he was kind of, I'd probably say, a little bit of a diva, a little bit. He's one heck of a player. Don't get me wrong. He's fast, punt returns. He can catch the ball deep. Absolute deep threat for Philadelphia. But I just know for sure that he's had some issues, and there's been some, character issues with him and whatnot. But maybe after this whole, that now that he's officially retired, he retired an Eagle, that he can be a coach in college and be successful. I just don't know. I just feel like I haven't seen anything from him to be like, oh yeah, he knows what he's talking about. I don't know. It seems to me that he could be good. He could be maybe not. But I have more confidence in Mike Vick than I would DeSean Jackson. And again, no disrespect to him. I think Mike Vick is kind of cut out for this type of thing. Whereas DeSean Jackson, I'm not fully sure about him. So, I'll go approved with Vic. I'll probably say absurd with DeSean Jackson. So, Voldy, what do you got?
Just looking between the two guys and what obviously we've seen more out of Mike Vick because he is on, TV a lot more with Fox NFL pregame coverage and him talking about the game a lot more than what we've seen out of DeSean The thought is ultimately going to be, I think Mike Vick is going to have that more immediate success. Of course, him being the head coach, but how thoroughly involved will he be? I'm assuming it'll be on the offensive side with Mike Vick and Deshaun on top of it. What kind of coaches are you going to surround yourself with coordinators, position coaches, quality control guys, guys handling stuff off the field too, or at least, game day operations, things of that sort. A lot of the little things come down to the right people that you put in those positions to make your program successful. I feel like with the connections that Mike Vick does have, not only in the Virginia area, of course, him being so close to that area growing up, how that can play to his dividends, but of course, just the people that he has maybe connections with, from the collegiate to the NFL level that maybe want to give it a shot at Norfolk State, just based off of being able to put everything together as opposed to, I don't know what we get out of Desean Jackson after him retiring as an Eagle back in 2023. Beyond that, I'm not sure. I would ultimately say you had to ask me between the two. I'd say Mike Vick is probably going to have the more immediate success. But, if we've seen anything outside of what we've seen out of Dion, it definitely takes some time to at least build a culture, build a program, and to at least get the right guys in order to seize that success. Of course, what we saw at Jackson State was a bit of an outlier. And then, first year at Colorado with Dion was, they were in games, they were scoring, but ultimately couldn't finish games. And then this year we saw the great amount of success that they did have, but still a lot of things to kind of iron out with now the next round coming in for them too.
Yeah, but, and again, it's not to say that Deshaun Watson's going to be bad or anything like that. It's just, I don't know. It's tough for me.
I don't know.
Yeah. It's just, So, Lucas says, skol. You're right. Skol, baby. Big one on Sunday, as we've said multiple times. But anyway, next one, Voldy.
Well, we head to the world of the NHL after a hellacious hit, to say the least, from New York Rangers forward Matt Rempe, who was suspended a couple weeks ago for 8 games for a hit on Dallas Stars defenseman Miro Heiskanen that, quote, violated multiple NHL rules, and he was ultimately punished for the boarding and elbowing rules on the play. Now, this is not the first time that we've seen the play out of Rempe. Of course, last season he getting suspended 4 games for elbowing a New Jersey defenseman on top of that, but he has been a bruiser to say the least since he came into the league, and you would think with him now at this level, bouncing in and out of the lineup for the Rangers since coming into the league last year, that there would be some adjustments in his play, but he's going out there and he's hitting anything that really moves, and now he's got to pay the piper yet again with an 8-game suspension on top of it. You mentioned in the show as in the beginning, Matt, that you did see the hit for the elbow on Heiskanen on top of it. Is it absurd or approved? Does the suspension fit the hit by Rempe?
Yeah, I would say so. Here's a question I have for you. Mm-hmm. Is he like the Draymond Green of the NHL? Is that what we're getting at here?
It's very close.
It's close?
Okay. We're getting there. I would probably say more along the lines of there's another guy that just got under people's skins and just didn't.
Dylan Brooks?
Dylan Brooks kind of at that level a little bit, kind of the notoriety, but not a lot of the success on top of it. True. I was going to say maybe a little bit of Dennis Rodman, but minus the colorful haircut on top of it. But again, not a lot of success on top of it for Rempe. But yeah, he's just been a pest, and I feel like that's something that's been missing from the game of hockey in the last handful of years. It's definitely become a lot more skill on top of it, as opposed to, the traditional, you got your forwards that'll score, you got your big bruising defenseman, but you don't have a forward that's going to go out there and be the enforcer on top of it. Long the days of, your Todd Fedorics and your Derek Bogards on top of it. I mean, those guys are long gone. The closest you have is obviously Ryan Reeves, a former Wild legend on top of it. But, there's hardly you see guys that are just strictly out there, just going out there and hitting anything that moves. So, yeah.
I mean, that hit was pretty rough too, and especially leading with the elbow too. I mean, that stuff hurts bad. I mean, even in football, I've had that. Got nailed blocking the back one time. Ugh, sucked. But yeah, it just seems to me that this whole situation with him, a repeat offender, and again, they're sending a message. Listen,
right?
You do this again, or it's just going to keep going up and up and up and up. He looks like a pretty boy, thinks he's tough, SHIT. But, I think it does. You can't be doing that, and if it's going to hurt the team especially, too. I think it fits the crime. I'd say 8 games is good, and then I think they got to up it even more if it happens again these next few weeks and or months. So, Voldy, what do you got?
I mean, it's not like he needed to go in with the elbow. He's 6'9", so he's already now going to be 7 foot on skates at minimum. I mean, he's probably 7'2" on skates with his, big frame that he's got. 71 penalty minutes in 17 games just this season alone. I mean, he's become a bit of a cult icon in New York, and if you do stuff like that, I guess that wins you over with the fans in New York, which is a very tough place to at least get notoriety from and stay on their good side. But if this continues, I mean, I don't see how this could be a winning situation for him. I know that coming into the season, he was going to be working a lot more on skill, but now he's just kind of reverting back to, just hitting anything that really moves. And, well, sadly, now with him being a repeat offender from last season into this year, it can only go up from this point if something like this should happen again.
Well, you do play stupid games, win stupid prizes,
exactly.
As a wise man once said. So,
F around and find out.
F around and find out. That's perfect. All right, I believe we're sticking with the NHL, Voldy.
Yes, staying in the world of the NHL, the upcoming 2025 NHL draft will be moving to a decentralized format, which will be held at the Peacock Theater in Los Angeles coming up in June. Now, June 27th and 28th, which is the place that's going to be at the Peacock Theater across from the Crypt, that's Crypto.com Arena, home of the Los Angeles Kings, will be host of the NHL draft. Now, of course, with the decentralized format, excuse me there for just a second. Now, the format is the same that is used for the NBA, NFL, and Major League Baseball drafts that has teams making selections from their own facilities rather than traveling to a central location, making them right on the draft floor. This outside of course, the draft that they had the 2 years during the COVID pandemic. They've always had a single host location since 1963 for the draft. When the Minnesota Wild had their draft, I believe that was in 2012, 2011. I wasn't there, but my dad and my brother got to go. They certainly had a heck of a time at the NHL draft at the XL Energy Center. Now, of course, they are still going to host. Not really sure what's going to happen with fan attendance on top of it. But with past drafts that you've seen, like the NBA, NFL, and Major League Baseball drafts, where, of course, draft decisions are taking place at their home facilities, then just calling in the picks on top of it, is it absurd or approved? The NHL switching up the draft proceedings to a decentralized format.
I like that it was in Minnesota. I completely forgot about that. That was 2012, I think you're right, Voldy. So, I'd probably kind of look at this and, of course, Los Angeles, of course. But I don't see a problem with it. I think it's kind of one of those things where it's like, having it at different places. The NFL's doing the same thing anyway. I mean, this upcoming draft's going to be in Green Bay, which is not ideal. Where are you going to have it? You can't have it at somebody's house. I don't know. It's whatever. Anyway, I just it's fine with me. I really don't have an issue with it. I mean, wherever they have the draft, they're gonna get on stage. They'll do their thing, go from there. Have families there. It seems like Bettman's got that rolling with that. I guess it doesn't really bother me. I'd probably give it my stamp of approval, have it in different places in the country. They'll probably have it in Canada at some point, I'd assume. So, that'll be interesting. So, I'll give it my stamp of approval. I think it's just fine with me. So, Voldy, Tate, what do you got?
Yeah, I think it's more along the lines of kind of streamlining a lot of things. You get these teams all on the floor, they sit at their tables or whatever, try to do analysis. It just really isn't conducive to getting the best out of what you can, as opposed to sitting in a meeting room at your facility and getting things done the good old-fashioned way. And I feel like this would definitely be something good for the league to kind of go to this format. Then you could probably fit in a lot more fans and definitely get a lot more interaction with that, because if anything the NHL is trying to do is get more attention on its players, on its stars. Of course, you'll have the team representatives at said venue, wherever it's going to be in the future. Of course, LA coming up here in June, but how that's going to be for the future, it could definitely allow more interaction with the fans and general knowledge of, maybe bringing some new eyes into the league too. So I think it's definitely got my stamp of approval on top of it.
Oh, there we go. Sorry. All right. Yeah, no, not a huge deal. I think it's interesting, in my humble opinion. So, all right, last one, Volde.
Well, heading back to the world of college football, of course, this taking place before the Colorado Buffalo football program fell to the BYU Cougars in the Alamo Bowl to finish off their season. Colorado decided to secure what it recorded in insurance coverage for star quarterback in Shedeursanders and Heisman Trophy winner Travishunter, as they decided to complete their college careers in the Alamo Bowl rather than sit out of the bowl game in preparation of the NHL or the NFL draft, I should say. They did not disclose the amount of coverage that each did receive, citing, of course, privacy laws, but it would say that was going to be the largest in college football history on top of it. Now, it does bring to the light of, through college programs maintaining insurance policies for their athletes in case of injury, which would allow them the opportunity to, if something freakish should happen and hurt their stock going into the draft, that there would be some sort of course, a compensation for, of course, giving up their bodies in the collegiate level as opposed to finishing off their time at the college level in preparation of the professional game on top of it. Now, looking at that whole situation with college football programs taking into consideration of adding insurance coverage for their star players, is it absurd or proof? Should other programs take note in insuring star players when it comes to, maybe even in bowl games to maybe throw a little bit of incentive on top of playing in said bowl games?
Yeah, I don't see a huge problem with it. I think it's actually kind of a smart idea. But then you have guys who aren't like star players. Like, what do you do about them? So that's that's the one question I ask with that. But, I get that. I get what Deion's doing, and I think it's fine to insure the players and whatnot. Them not disclosing a number is fine. I mean, I'm sure they're well compensated. Trust me. So it's I think it's good. I don't see any issue with it. Hunter's a hell of a player. Obviously, Shedeur's a stud too. I mean, they're good. They're very good players. So it's kind of with some of these other schools, it wouldn't surprise me if they start doing that too, because the NIL and all this and that, NCAA under a microscope usually all the time. So I don't see an issue with it. I'd give it my stamp of approval. But I think this is kind of like, people should take note of it and say, okay, how can we do this, but maybe in our own way type of thing. But we'll see. Who knows? So, Voldy, what do you got?
I think it's definitely something to, maybe not add a little bit more incentive, but definitely covers everybody's rear ends, because we saw, sadly, with the Miami quarterback Cam Ward, he played in the first half of the bowl game, got the all-time touchdown pass record for college football, and then sat out the second half, which is unfortunate in many areas, especially for the Miami football program. I believe they even lost that game on top of it. But you feel like if they did insure him on top of what he's going to be looking at the, possibility of drafting very high in the NFL draft, that would have at least covered him to be like, you know what, I want to finish things out. But he made a business decision, and you know what, he has to live with it on top of it from his time at the collegiate level. But I see from the one side of insuring players for the sake of, they've played as long as they have at the college level. They've done as much as they can for their programs. Now they want to see, make sure that the college is going to have their back for the future. Or if something ungodly should happen in a bowl game, in a championship game, maybe the third game of the season, that way they're going to be covered to at least get them at the point where if they do go pro or have a chance to go pro, and maybe they miss out and aren't as drafted as high, or ended up being a free agent, an undrafted free agent. That way they'll have at least some sort of compensation for their time too. I think it's got my stamp of approval too.
So, yeah, I think, however they do it, as long as they're getting insured and everything, fine with me. Anyway, great job with ARA this week, Voldy, as always. One question I do have before we go into Shield shoutouts. Mm-hmm. We've been doing this show for 5 years. We've seen Case. We've seen Tate.
Uh-huh.
I just don't get the fascination with the microphone. I mean, they love the microphone. I don't understand it.
I don't know either.
I don't know. Like, every time I'm just like, man, they really like your microphone, Voldy.
I don't get it. To be inside the mind of a toddler.
That's right.
Don't know.
That's right.
Know.
Oh, it's just fun.
Dervish. Yeah.
Well, yeah, it'd be interesting to know kind of why it is interesting. But hey, you know what? If they like it, they like it. That's cool. So, all right, Voldy, we have a lot of Shield shoutouts to get through this week, rightfully so. So let's get it going with some Shield shoutouts.
Shield shoutouts.
All right, Shield Tate, who ya shouting out tonight?
Well, since we've been off for a couple of weeks, we've got a lot of Shield shoutouts to get to. And of course, with the show that we do have, if not in forecast in the future, we had one hell of a foreshadowing with one half of Double Trouble, Miss Caitlin Toner. Of course, she got her Christmas wish granted with an engagement ring. Yes, her and her now fiance Austin are engaged, and congratulations to her, of course, with Kirsten on top of it. Kirsten, I should say, is going to be a mom coming up in 2025. So congratulations to her on top of it. But of course, congrats to Caitlin on getting her wish granted with being engaged. Of course, we do want to say congratulations to all participants in the inaugural fantasy football season for the MinneZona Listener League, including creative consultant Mrs. Sarah Antuzvold in her first ever season of fantasy football, finishing in 7th out of the 12 teams. So congrats to her on top of it. Best of luck, we got to say, former Twins outfielder now Max Kepler signing with the Philadelphia Phillies this past week, as he was an integral part of the Bomba squad back in 2019 with the Twins. And believe it or not, I was actually in attendance for his very first walk-off home run. I believe might have been his first career home run. I can't remember on top of it. It happened to be against the Boston Red Sox, which was a grand slam against the Red Sox, which ended up being David Ortiz's last game in Minnesota too. So best of luck to Max Kepler out in Philly. Of course, do have to say goodbye as well to now former Twins reliever Caleb Thielbar, the Minnesota guy out of Randolph, Minnesota. He's joining the Chicago Cubs on a 1-year deal, making it back to the major leagues after a 5-year spurt in between playing at the major league level. He ended up being a college coach at one point, but gave it one last go and is now finding his way into the bullpen with the Chicago Cubs. So best of luck to Caleb Thielbar. Sadly, we did lose a couple of legends when it comes to life itself. We do have to say rest in peace to Hall of Famer and legend Ricky Henderson. He passed away this past week, the all-time stolen base king, all-time runs leader, and just an energetic ambassador when it came to the game of baseball. Ricky Henderson did pass away this past week. And sadly, we did lose former U.S. president, the 39th president of the United States, Jimmy Carter, who passed away at the age of 100 on Sunday. The oldest living former president sadly did pass away battling cancer in his time. Sadly will be missed. And we do have to say best of luck in retirement to former Twins infielder and utility player Harry Adrianza, as he announced his leave from the game after 12 seasons at the major league level, including with the Twins, a member of the Bomba squad as well from 2017 to 2020. Time also did include with the San Francisco Giants, the Washington Nationals, the Los Angeles Angels, and did also win a World Series with the Atlanta Braves back in 2021. And that is going to do it for Shield Shoutouts this week.
Well done. And I assume he's already on the list of former Twins that...
I got to double check. I got to do some updating. I know now we're in
That's right.
2025. We're adding another chapter to it. So I will definitely double check that here before too long. I'm pretty sure he's on there already. So.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. Yep. And, the big news, obviously, Jimmy Carter, Ricky Henderson, some Twins moving on as well. Congratulations to our creative consultant as well. She was fantastic, and especially everybody else did a great job as well. Even you, Victor. We know there was a lot going on, but hey, you know what? Next year, it's going to be awesome. So, and obviously, congrats to Caitlin Toner, on getting her Christmas wish. Oh, that was crazy. There was a feeling. We had a feeling that's what's going to happen. So, and we were right. So there you go. All right. Great job with Shield Shoutouts as always, Voldy. And one last reminder: pick 'em, guys. Pick 'em last week. Get those picks in. You can win a MinneZona bundle. You could win a signed Breesall. You could win a signed Drake London, and you could win a signed Terrell Davis, baby. Let's go. So make sure you get those picks in, get them rolling, get them done, get it rolling. We will have that for you coming up here as well. So get those picks in. Guys, we've got the stickers. We've got the sweatpants, the shirts, the whole kit and caboodle, hats, winter hats, quarter zips. It's cold out there. We've got you covered. Let us know if you would like to buy some of this merch. We've got plenty of it. And make sure that you're doing what you can here with the merch. Let us know if you'd like some. We got stickers, the hats, as you can see right here, and whatnot. So make sure you check that out. So, thank you to W2 Performance, Will Rattel at www.w2performance.com. Thank you to National Fleet Graphic, Crown Rental, Tyler Knutson as well. So with the stickers. And make sure you check out the Brotherly Ballers podcast. Tyler Hermann, Jack Vickers. Tyler Hermann, our first ever MinneZona champion as well. Make sure you check out their stuff. Fantasy football wrapped up, but they still have some fantasy going on here a little bit, so make sure you check that out. Shout out to TLS Performance, Troy Stoudemire Jr. with his stuff, and make sure you check out the Popcorn Bucket List, Nick Dahlhoff, Ryan Meyerberg, the Rhino baby, and Omni Entertainment. So, with that being said, that'll do it for episode 221. All there's left to say, skol Vikes, BDD, Sam Darnold, Jay Jettas, Jordan Addison, TJ Hawkinson, the offensive line, D-line, the whole defense, KOC, the whole coaching staff. Get it done, baby. Let's get that 1 seed. Let's beat those Lions. We'll see what happens on Sunday. So, with that being said, remember, as always, folks, keep in the zone.
Holla.
Thank you for watching MinneZona Sports Live. Join us Wednesdays at 7 p.m. for live show broadcast. And as Voldy likes to say, follow us on all the socials medias.